because for all three of you, you've been to events before.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't learn about this one until Enright posted about it last year. I was like, why did I not know about this?
And you've been to events before, right? You
Never.
Yeah. You're up near me. You're up near the farther north.
Yeah.
Poughkeepsie.
It's not even the distance. It's just the time.
Well, you made it to PRI. That's
right. Yeah, but I wouldn't consider that a training event. That was an expo.
Yeah.
You know?
So I'm sitting here tonight. By now, if you're listening, depending on how they do the editing of this, you're listening to another episode of the Jaded Mechanic podcast. But if you're listening just on audio, you're probably hearing some familiar voices, and you're like, how do I know that voice? Well, so my first guest comes from Poughkeepsie, New York. Check Engine Chuck, who I've had on before. Chuck, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing very well.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm awesome, man. We've been talking about this and coming here for a while, and we thought it was going to happen last year, and it didn't. And then I got on with one of your lives, and I kind of called you out, and I said, "Hey, are you coming or not?"
Yeah, and it finally gave me the push to make my way here, which I'm quite excited about.
Yeah. And then sitting to my right is a man that knows no introduction or needs no introduction, Mr. Brandon Sloan. How are you?
Doing pretty good, Jeff. How about yourself?
Good,
today?
man. Honestly, I gotta say, I'm over the moon tickled to have you three gentlemen here. And you're like, well, who's the third one? If you're not watching on camera, my third guest, just say hello.
Hello.
That is Mr. Subaru, everybody. Robert, how do you say your last name? Lazenby. And you know me, I'm Jeff Compton. I'm the Jaded Mechanic. And we're sitting here at ASTA 2024. And it is Friday night. So it's after beer 30. And we just finished, some of us had the ASOG dinner, and it's casino night. So it's going to be a fun night here. And what has got me really happy is by now you kind of know this is about stories. So, we're going to talk about why you're all here, what made you decide to come here, and what your kind of experiences have been in here. And then obviously we want to know, like, what got you into this industry? Why are you in it? Why are you staying in it? What do you hate about it? Right? What do you love about it? So, Chuck, they kind of know your story, right? But give us kind of just the Coles Notes version of, you're a mobile diagnostic programming guy, right? You do diag almost
correct
95% of the time.
Yeah, correct. Actually, at this point, I've essentially completely stopped taking on customer work unless it's an old customer of mine that I dearly respect or care about, or if I get a call from like an old lady, she's like, my wheel fell off. I'm like, I'll go help that old lady. But essentially, at this point, yes, I go to other shops or a very small handful of used car dealers and just do diagnostic work and programming. And even programming, I'm not programming everything.
Yeah.
There's things that I can't program yet, but the goal is to get to that point.
That's what you were talking about when we were talking about the live, what you wanted to come here and take that next step.
What's even more interesting is on our last podcast, you asked me about getting into the EPROM work. And I said, well, I don't want to put it that way. I'm getting into the EPROM work. I'm not doing EPROM work. And the first class I come to take here, it turns out, is about EPROM work. And the description wasn't good enough for me to know that was it.
Yeah.
But now I'm like full thrust into EPROM work. That class was incredible.
Yeah. And who taught that?
That was JT Walker. JT Walker.
Yep.
It was a very good class.
Yeah.
Very
good guy. Good guy. Now, how big is your following right now on TikTok?
425,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm not there.
No, I mean it's definitely it's something to be proud of.
Yeah. And we talk. It is a full-time job.
I try to keep it as a part-time job, but it's essentially a full-time job.
It is a lot of commitment, right?
Yeah.
Like, then that's the thing. Like, even you, Mr. Brandon, I see the work that you guys put into it, and you kind of helped me and said, "Hey, if you do this, you do that," and I'm getting there. I'm slowly getting there. It's a tweak thing for me. I got to tweak things. I go slow, but it's been TikTok in the last year has been absolutely monumental to where I've been able to take this platform. And TikTok, China, and all that kind of stuff. I don't friggin' care at this point, right? If I can get my message out to more people, I'll put it on every platform I can.
Right. Steal my data. Everyone else's.
That's right. Yeah. So, Robert, Mr. Subaru, how are you?
Tired.
It's a lot being here, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's every event. I'm dragging. I'm just low energy kind of guy when I'm not in front of a camera.
Now, the cool thing about this, and I'm not trying to stir the pot, is you're sitting next to Chuck, and you guys are cool, right?
Oh yeah, we've been talking for
we even picked
weeks,
fun at that last
months
night
coming
on
up with this.
TikTok.
yeah.
But he's like, yeah, because I saw the cart thing. He's like,
Right.
Mr. Subaru, why did you block me?
Right.
But and when I first met you the other day, because it was kind of a surprise to me that you were here.
Yeah.
And then I said to you, I said, damn, you're taller than I thought you'd be.
Heard a lot of that.
Yeah,
This
everyone.
week. Every single person.
And then when it's like when I get to know you, you're not the villain that everybody I think sometimes makes you out to be.
The character on social media.
Yeah. So, with Chuck, why did you? I mean, you did block him, right?
Yeah. I mean, there was absolutely no malice or anything in it. We never even talked to each other, never commented, stitched video, nothing.
Yeah.
There was just, there was always an influx when any time I had a viral tool video go out that a lot of his followers would tag him in it. And it was fine. And then there was this one day, it was a Friday. It was late. I'd been through 1,000 comments and all that. And I was wore out. And I think he responded to one of the tags finally, and it was something kind of snarky. And I'm like, all right, well, whatever.
It was. I remember
And I
very
was like-
specifically after talking to him that what I said when I got tagged was, this guy doesn't answer comments. He doesn't even follow anybody. Stop tagging me in his videos.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I try to read every single comment, even if I don't respond to everyone, because it's just so it just takes so much of my time between emails and YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and all the social media platforms. I try to read everybody's comments, but I just don't have enough time in the day to comment on it or do anything else, more or less.
I don't have 1/10 of probably the engagement that you do, and I don't even try anymore. I mean, I can keep it up on TikTok, I can keep it up on Facebook, but the other two, like YouTube and Instagram, I'm not following it.
Yeah.
I can't keep up with everything. I've got to go to work every day still and fix a bunch of cars, and I mean, and that's not an excuse because you all have much busier lives than me, right?
Yeah, and what people I think don't realize is that the amount of followers that we have here sitting in this room today, and the comments and the emails that come through, it takes a toll on us.
Yes.
Yeah.
To
100%.
try to get to as many people as we can, and then we still have people that will continuously comment in each comment section, but still will get frustrated because we don't see it and we don't respond, and they get very mad and angry.
Right.
And I think that's the other side with social media that takes the toll on you, Robert.
I literally had that this morning while I was sitting in class. I was trying to answer some emails. No disrespect to the instructor or the class, but I kind of picked the wrong class for me this morning. That it was a little bit less. It was a basic class, and it was like, okay, this is already stuff I know. I picked wrong from the description, but no disrespect to him whatsoever. It was a phenomenal class. He did great, but I was just trying to catch up with some stuff early on. And one guy on Facebook just came in to talk trash, and a lot of people just come on just to, talk trash about me or be derogatory towards me, and nothing of content, nothing of substance.
Yes.
It's just to come on and be hateful or mean.
Yeah. He's not
so I
coming
blocked
with an
him,
argument.
moved on with my life. A lot of people think that I'm just out here blocking people because I'm a crybaby or I was proven wrong by someone, or it's on and on and on. It's the fact that it's got so overwhelming. I don't have any time in my day to allot for that negativity. So it's easier to block, delete, and move on with my life than get in a squabble fest with someone in the comments or make videos back and forth. So this morning, this guy comes on, trash talks, block, delete, move on with my life.
Yeah.
Boom. Here comes 4 comments on 4 other Facebook videos. I've got 16 different accounts. You're not going to block me on all of them, you crybaby. So block that one again. All of them get hidden again. 10 minutes later, here he is on another account. It's just like,
got 11 more to go through.
People say,
who has that much free time?
And on the third account, he comments, you must spend more time on social media than you do fixing cars because you're over here on Facebook blocking all my accounts. It's like, well, I'm actually sitting in at a trading expo right now. And, it's just, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Nothing you do will ever be looked upon as the correct way. Someone will always have something bad to say with what you do or how you handle any situation, how you respond to anything. So it's, the catch-22 is just, sometimes it's just going to be quiet.
Right, but you see enough of that, and it does take a toll on you eventually.
Oh, for sure.
It does. I mean, especially if you, and I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty of this, but a lot of people listening, as well as you guys, are going to know what I'm talking about. When you stand up for something that you believe in, based off your morality, but it's going to get backlash, that takes a fucking toll on you.
Well, remember you like some sweet tea? Remember that the whole thing that started with me, and it's like you took that, damn, that's some good tea, and then you started talking about me with the whole thing that started all that with Vermilion Vixen.
Right.
And you're like, damn, that's some, what'd you say, strong ass tea?
That's a strong ass tea. Yeah, the tea, man. The tea.
And that kind of was that was my first kick into.
My wife got me into that.
Into really having like a conversation on TikTok. Before I just scrolled it, watched.
Right.
That was going to be a conversation. And you called me out on, and rightfully so. I think it was out of context that you were not understanding, and now I think but the backstory on that was like somebody used the term stealership.
Yes.
And that triggers
That's
me.
where Kirsten had taken a vehicle up to the dealership. I think it was to get a key programmed.
I don't remember.
Code cleared.
Because it needed auto auth, and she does not have. She did not have auto auth. And then she had said, called it a stealership. Now, this is a person that has worked at the stealership in the past. That's me. That's you. That's you. And that's you. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't like that term, just to be clear. And I kind of took that and said, with closing off my remarks about why I don't like that term and what I'm here about, and I said, some people that might use that term, maybe they just use that term because they couldn't hack it. I wasn't even calling her out specifically, just of the constant, what I see online, the DIY segment, not calling her a DIYer, but I've always liked her, because that tends to be, what's a stealership? It's somebody that feels like the dealership is too expensive. That's who uses that term. If you're a technician and you're using that term, you're offending you, me, and you might even be offending yourself if you used to be one. Now, you can have whatever thinking you have about a former employer, and that's where she comes from, and I know where it comes from, and it's justified. Cool.
Yes.
But if you're going to put yourself out there and say, I'm a member of this industry, to me, you do it with pride. You do it with respect. You don't take the derogatory DIYer terms that they like to sling around at us and use it against us. And that's where it went. And so you called me out, and I was like, man.
Well, it was not that I was saying that what you said is going to be held in this context, is that other people can take it that way.
Right.
And the thing is, when I was in that entire that comment section, I'm just sitting here reading everybody going back and forth, and I would just refresh it to see the new comments that are coming in, and just watching that post and just seeing all I was seeing on both ends and what everybody was saying. There is a tactic that some of us use that will take one comment out of the comment section and stop that thread. By making a video, it'll pull to the top. Now, the algorithm doesn't really do that too much anymore, so I can't.
It used to.
But it used to.
Yeah.
And I could stop the conversation and say, hey, here it is. But if it's not like in your face, it won't roll, with people to gain the attraction and the attention to say, what's going on here? What just happened? So there's a context into it that we can throw to say where that is and stop it before it becomes detrimental to both parties.
Yeah. And everybody, I think, thought that I was piling on her, right? I was trying to, and that was never the case. The case was standing up for myself. The case was standing up for anybody that would have been triggered by that remark. And you can go, you shouldn't get triggered. You're just a crybaby. If anybody that knows me, and I was a new boy on TikTok, but I'm the old hat on Facebook. If you know what I am, I advocate for all of us at a level that most aren't and won't ever. So it just it stuck me, and I reacted. that was not a pile on her. And if it came across that way, I stood up for myself. I'm still don't think at the end of it that anything I said, I wouldn't take back one word of it. Because I know part of what makes my character is like, if I say it, I mean it. And I may hurt people's feelings sometimes, and I may apologize. You and I.
Mm-hmm.
You and I. So, but it was the way it came out is what I was trying to say at the time, and it's going to stay there.
I think it's hard for people to separate the fact that you were coming at the statement, not the person.
Yeah. And she has a lot of fans. Let's be real.
Yeah.
She's got a fan club, and everybody immediately piled on me. You fat bearded fuck. And I'm like, cool, man. Who are you? You're somebody that like. Why are you her fan? Let's really talk about that if you want to talk about her. Not judging.
Right.
But like, what do you really know about the context subject matter that we're talking about at this particular time? You don't. You're defending her because you think maybe that's the right thing to do. You're not in the conversation, bro. Get out of it. This is people in the industry having a conversation. No. You maybe be watching her for a completely different reason. I'm not hate on that. But you're now, this subject matter, you're not an expert on. See yourself out.
Now, in that same topic of conversation, I probably got into that ring as well. I don't know if you saw the videos a couple years ago, and there was a couple of people that got really mad about it, about where I was calling out dealer techs for a specific instance that happened to me personally, where I don't think we got in the story Wednesday.
No.
A buddy of mine, real good buddy of mine, knew him for 10 years. He recently passed from ALS. And he had a 17-year-old daughter at the time. And they were Subaru family, one of the reasons why we became friends. Always serviced their cars, but this was shortly after he got diagnosed and had already lost the ability to speak and was wheelchair bound. And she had a Legacy GT 2005 at the time, needed some stuff done to it, had some steering issues and things. And they didn't want to bother me with it. And also the travel back and forth with having to take care of him and move the car back and forth to bring it to me was going to be an issue. So they had a Dodge dealership. I won't name any names, but it was close by, and it was a family friend of theirs that was in the service department. They said, well, we'll fix it for you. So I don't know exactly what the issue was because I never saw it beforehand. I only know what was done to it and how it was brought to me after 2 attempts. But there was an issue with the steering. They replaced power steering pump and rack twice. Aftermarket parts on both. When it arrived to me, the power steering pump on the Subaru's 3 bolts that put it on the block on the EJ 255. 2 on the front were stripped out. 1 on the back was holding it. There was a 10 millimeter jammed in a hole on the front, which it should have been 12 or M8 by 1.25. Anyway, they stripped it out, stripped the aluminum block for the mount of the power steering pump, and the rack only had 1 bolt on each of the U clamps for the steering rack in a 17-year-old girl's car. And I was infuriated when I saw the condition it was brought to me after a dealership let that leave, not once but twice. And also the fact that my buddy, I was fired up. I was pissed. So I made this video. I didn't use the term Stealership, but I was like, some of you so-called dealer techs that put out sloppy, half-assed work like this put a bad look on all of us because for so many years, Dateline 2020 and all these things, of painting us all as scam artists and con artists and all this stuff. When you do this kind of stuff, which is not only just half-assed, it's dangerous, especially on steering or braking components, but a steering rack not even fully bolted in, not even torqued, nothing, I went off. And again, I named no names. I pointed no fingers at anybody, but some people got in the comment section and were very mad about it, even though I wasn't saying, I was speaking in generalities, because we know in every industry there's always good and bad. There's not, you don't always want to point out someone's good or bad, but sometimes you need to hold people accountable for when they're not doing what they should be doing. And, I look at it this way. Any car that comes in the bay, whether, the industry is set up against us anyway through through dealerships and flat rate and everything else. There's so much against a technician that's in a dealership or even independent that, just because you're mad at, you had a bad day or you're mad at you're not getting hours that week, whatever, you can't just half-ass a car, especially when it's something critical like that, because something happens and someone injured, killed, wrecked, something like that. It comes back on you. It comes back on where you work. As a whole, there's levels. Yeah. Every car that comes in there, you should work on it like it's your grandmother's car or your mother's car.
1,000%.
Just some random car. It's a paycheck. Put it out the push it out the bay. Oh, well, that bolt cross-threaded. Screw it. Just run it with the impact. That kind of like mentality I see in the comment section a lot on my stuff. And I think people have learned that I'm very particular about the way I do things and how I do stuff. And that kind of hack, quote unquote, kind of mentality that's spread or popularized, that running with impact, how many Ugga Duggas is that? What's a torque wrench? That, we've got to do better if we don't do better, act better, it's going to be hard for people to look at us better. If we act like the way they think about us, that's going to reinforce that negativity that, oh, they're just a bunch of dumb grease monkeys. If you act like it, they're going to treat you like that. If you act professional, if you carry yourself accordingly, if you talk well and you do what you should and how it should be done and clean, respectable, and presentable, and change that, that persona or that image you project, then maybe slowly we can get some shift in the general public. But until then, if they think you're a bunch of con artists, grease monkeys that don't know nothing and uneducated, and you want to act that way even if it's on social media, playing around. We all joke around and stuff, and there's a line. But if on TikTok or social media platforms, the DIY or the general public that's scrolling and it hits their For You page, they don't know the difference between inside joking and jabbing each other, and are they seriously like this? So
right there, I'm going to cut you off, because you and I have talked about this. What yanks me really hard is misinformation. You and I have had this conversation, and you are excellent
100%
at calling people out. Look, let's get the elephant in the room here. The famous video that went around from my favorite shop to talk about as of late, Dave's Auto Shop. That video of the intake air temp sensor.
Oh my God.
Okay.
So
I wasn't sure which one we were going with.
Yes.
I made a video about that, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That was in error. Made to call it a mass airflow sensor.
No. What was also in error was that PO 101 ever existed on a speed density vehicle.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. But so lots of things are wrong, right? And misinformation. And I have said, and you have said, and lots of people have said, it should be taken down.
Correct.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It should be taken down. It's just blatant wrong, misinformation.
Yeah, if
bullshit.
it's flat out because nobody's in the comment section trying to fix it. Now, if I said something wrong and I watched it a couple of times and I missed something, but I mean, something like that is...
Right.
No, but that's the problem, is that the comment section doesn't know to correct it.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's misinformation that now that comment section can believe. There might be people in that comment section that, don't get me wrong, I don't love K&N by any means, but people that might have threw out their K&N and bought another air filter and put it in there because they think it's going to screw up their mass airflow sensor on an odd speed density vehicle.
Or 100 people in the next day in all over the internet world, when somebody posts that I have a Dodge Charger that's not running right, they will say, change the mass airflow sensor or clean it. And somebody will
got a K&N air filter?
And somebody will go, it doesn't have one. And they'll go, it most certainly does. I just saw Dave put one in a video.
Right.
That's the kind of nonsense that as a professional, I will always rally against, because it's like, listen, I'm not trying to call him out for, if you're just flat wrong, you're flat wrong. Okay. But you then, as a professional, need to put your hand up and go, hey, I was wrong. And make that video. And then take the old video down.
If we look at it face value, this was a hit piece against K&N for what? Engagement.
Yeah.
Which a lot of his things are targeted at driving the comment section and stuff. I didn't know who Dave was until March. I bought my L5P Duramax, and like a couple weeks later, my girlfriend's father sent me one of Dave's videos on the Duramax crank pin issue. I'm like, what the hell is this? I've never seen this about Duramax crank pins breaking. And Brandon and I talked, and we were all about, back and forth about this. Like, I've never seen this issue before. Like,
if anyone thinks those pins hold the crank in place, you're deluded.
Now, I've talked to some
pins
people.
Hold the balancer or the oil drive.
Or sorry, if those pins, if those pins hold the balancer and the oil drive in place, you're deluded.
Yeah.
So a few of us were talking in a little group that I do have. Is just a couple of builders and together, and one of them happens to own a couple of Deuce trucks, and we were kind of just throwing the comment section, the conversation around, talking about the crankshafts and some things and what they have seen. And I know there's people that have 1 million miles on them and it's never happened to them. And there's some people that have happened like real early, even under warranty, brand new, and the bolt was just loose.
Mm-hmm.
And some people will say that it's not after a water pump replacement, and it may be still an interference fit issue has to do with the torque of the bolt, because it has actually changed even with new L5Ps. So that just came across to me as well. But I told him I'm going to entertain this. I'm going to decide to entertain this, since I do have an O2 Duramax that I'm doing the water pump on. I've got the ability to show and explain that and tell them what the torque value actually is, in case somebody doesn't know what it is, and just do it very respectfully. And I did it just respectfully in that manner. And it sparked a massive conversation to the point to where I couldn't keep up with the comment section. I just let it go.
Yeah. And you become the bad guy.
Yeah.
No, just let those in the comment section handle it, because at that point it would consume our lives to continue with the comment section.
Right.
Let them do that. Because we know the truth and we can see the truth, and we can still talk about it later as we go.
I feel like if you let it ride, you better hope that comment section is smart. You know?
Yeah.
I've given up on the idea that most comment sections anywhere are smart.
Right.
I have faith in my followers.
Yeah?
Yes.
I do. I have faith in my followers. I really do, honestly.
Well, see, my whole back to that particular video, the only reason I brought it up was because that was my first. I'd never heard of him, knew nothing of him in scrolling before that video was sent to me by the girlfriend's father that was like, hey, you just bought a Duramax. Did you know that, he doesn't know. He's not a mechanic. He doesn't know this kind of stuff. He's just average person. And he was like, oh, man, that looks like a bad issue, this and that. Well, going back to the K&N video, you look at the top comments. There should be a GM TSB or recall. There should be a class action lawsuit. You're taking the general public that doesn't know much, and you're infuriating them, and you're enraging them, and you're inciting all this stuff. But then if you watch the video through, you see what it is. I'm selling you the panic to sell you the cure, because, this is the big crank pin issues on the Duramax. But if you come and get a Dave's Monster engine with a keyway in it, then you don't have the issue. Now, again, make your bag, whatever. But I don't like when someone does that kind of misinformation or stretching the truth or making a mountain out of a molehill kind of thing. You look at the comment section, the average person watching got enraged or got scared if they had a Duramax. Should I trade my truck? All this stuff. And that leads me into the whole transmission seal thing that I'm sure everyone knows about by now. So my girlfriend's father, this was like a couple weeks in between when this happened, or a month. He has a Nissan Titan with a Cummins in it and the Ison. He has the exact same truck. Yeah. He bought it before he told us he bought it. And I was like, oh, God.
Yeah. Anyway,
he sends me that video after he sent me the other one from Dave, freaking out. Do I need to sell the truck? Is it really that there's no parts for this thing? Is everything discontinued? Did I screw up? I was like, well, to a degree, yeah. They discontinued it shortly for a reason, but also like, no, this is a 5-year-old truck. There's no reason they can't get an input shaft or the front seal on this transmission. So yes, I screwed up. I put my foot in my mouth. I jumped the gun. I saw it and 0 to 100.
Yeah.
So I was like, there's no way there's no seal for this transmission. There's no way it's a $12,000 transmission. Because again, it's getting the rage up. This is a $12,000 transmission. It's how you start the video. This little seal failed. We got to buy a whole this seal's not of it. It's the whole thing again. You're creating that bigger rift between the consumer and the technician, which doesn't help the industry at all. They already distrust us, and you're making that divide bigger and bigger. It's not doing us any good.
Yep. So
I see that, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to go get online and start looking everywhere. Stupid me. Everywhere I looked showed the 7-speed and the gasser, because the Cummins and the Ison combo was such a rare option. It's not easy to find it.
Yep.
But it is out there. We all, after the end of it, determined that the seal exists. The truck was fixed. It went down the road. But it became this whole back and forth, multi-million view thing covered on these blogs and all this stuff, blown way out of proportion over engagement and clicks on social media.
And Dave's just sitting there just smiling.
Correct. And what I was saying before about this kind of stuff, standing up for the right thing, taking a toll on you. When we go to Corey's Engine, the only reason that customer didn't buy a $12,000 transmission is because he made that video.
Yeah.
It's the only reason.
And see, that didn't come out too much in the narrative, did it?
No, that video, the finale, the truck's fixed, it's good. That's like 400,000 views 2 weeks after the 2.5 million, 3.2 million, the meat and potatoes here.
It's like saying something about Trump, and then they post a retraction, but the retraction is 2 weeks later, and it isn't on the front page.
Footnote of a footnote.
Yeah. but it's on page 30.
Yep.
And nobody ever reads.
Yeah,
Right.
because as soon as Mr. Subaru, as soon as Robert posted the video about the seal, I jumped into action and started doing some research on it as well, because I don't typically see those trucks in the shop.
Right.
I've never touched one myself, but I do know guys in the industry that do work on them. So all I had to do was just kind of look everything up and go behind what Robert had already done and verify, okay, if I take more care to look at the video, I can zoom in far enough to state that the X means that it is a item to replace every time.
One-time use.
It's a one-time use part. It does not mean that it is not discontinued or that it is not available. And Dave did interject and apologize for that, that he did make that error and that mistake. But what it incited and created like a 5-part series, like all week, every mechanic and everybody across the world wanted to see everything going on with this truck. And so I'd already gotten in contact with a couple of people. I knew it was an AS69 RC seal. And it did match, and I still got some hate on it because, well, my digital calipers did not meet or was close by like, 300 thousandths difference on it. But they don't take into account that it is a press fit seal, and it was pulled out and deformed.
Exactly.
Right.
So it's not going to be the same entirely, but it's right damn close.
Right.
But I already knew it was the right seal. I didn't care what the comment section said. So at that point, we go from a point to where a part that is shown on the screen that is not available, but it is available. But the only way you can see it, if you go to Nissan's catalog, it skips that truck for some reason. And then I had to make a phone call to Uncle Jay. I let him know kind of what was going on with Toby and stuff like that, and started asking a little bit of questions.
Right.
And come to find out the engine and the transmission was supposed to be designed for military use and was licensed to Nissan for 2 years, like 16, 17 models year only, maybe 18. But if those came into the dealership, Nissan can't work on it. It has to go to Cummins.
Yep.
And he only had one where the customer had hit something and damaged it and burned it up, and then they had to get the unit from Cummins.
So
they had to send the customer to Cummins.
Was Jay able to find that seal?
No. So what we found into it, it is not in the catalog.
Okay.
So that's where I came to the resolution that an RE6R01A is not going to be in the catalog designed for that truck because Cummins has the info.
Okay.
If the truck comes into a Nissan dealer, they can't work on it.
Right.
Because it is Cummins stuff. So at that point where we find out that the seal that was actually there is incorrect because it's for an RE7 R01A, which is a 7-speed.
Right.
And there are differences where you can get parts on the aftermarket side because it is physically a hybrid of an AS68 and an AS69 combined.
Right. That's what I found Friday night before I made the video. It's a different case because there's no PTO provision on the Nissan like there is for the Dodge version. The bell housing is different because of the different bolt pattern for the 6.7 versus the 5-liter. And the input shaft length was different because of the difference in the bell housing and the torque converter. And I think that was the only difference, was the tail housing section was different or something too. But other than that, front to back, guts-wise, it's basically the exact same transmission. I found that before I found the incorrect seal. But at the end of the day, the thing that ticked me off the most about it is it's a lip seal. It's not something special from Nissan only. It's not from Ison. It was a Koyo seal or an NTN seal, and it has a part number cast in it like almost every other single lip seal there is. So don't tell me you didn't take that lip seal out and try to cross-reference the Koyo part number or the NTN part number or whoever it was that made the lip seal, and it's, I called the Nissan dealership, not available, discontinued. Yeah. But then at the end of the day, the worst part about it, for me personally, because I tuck tail, I handled it wrong. I should have rebutted after his first rebuttal where he picked my rebuttal apart.
Yeah.
Because there was plenty of things I could have gone back on him about. At the end of the day, that wasn't the point. The point wasn't to clout chase Dave. It wasn't to do anything other than to stop the misinformation about the seal and overblowing that, oh, it's a transmission because the seal's not available and all that crap. But then the blowback on it was, oh, this guy can't even, close is good enough because the 7-speed and 6-speed seal is different. Well, if I had it in front of me, it would have been different.
Who knows that?
Right.
The people that work on them all the time.
Yeah.
Essentially, with enough care and enough research, it can be found.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Oh, anything can.
Right.
3
anything
days.
can.
3 days we had all the information. It took us 3 days.
Right.
Which was my whole point, but people already have that persona of him, a dickhead, know-it-all, jackass, whatever, that they took that and ran with that this guy wouldn't let work on a bicycle. He can't even find a seal. Oh, close is good enough. It's like, well, if I had the truck in front of me and the seal in front of me, there would not have been a close. I would have seen that the seal I pulled out was the wrong one. I didn't have it in front of me. It's not the fact that I'm trying to, fix it through the internet. It's just calling out the BS of you could find the seal. Don't make this a big deal for nothing with millions of views again for that division between the customer base and the mechanics and them to think we're slimy again and all that kind. It comes back to that.
That's why I keep thinking that we have to keep focusing on the word misinformation. Because if we keep it too much, people want to go, you're just trying to run him down for your numbers to go past his.
Tinfoil hat.
No.
Right? That's what people want to think about.
Right.
None of us, I think, in this room, you've heard me say, I barely look at my numbers. I don't give a crap.
I was happiest at 20,000 followers.
Yeah.
Again, that's what when you get this big following, you get this audience, and the audience can be directed as a weapon.
Yeah. So moving on with and we're not getting off of Dave. This is not that we piled on him either, though. Don't take it that way. But it's a situation of the Corey's engine thing, right? As an industry, or as people on a platform, when you think about what we did, well, mostly what you guys did, right? For can you think of any other time in this known history of the industry has we been able to change something for the better for a particular individual that deserved it?
It's very easy to do the right thing when everyone is watching.
Yeah.
And the same thing. Corey would have never gotten that much fresher engine if this room hadn't done something about it. And that's why I'm okay with the amount of shit that I got over it.
Yeah.
We changed the end of that man's life.
Yeah. I can tell you're getting emotional about it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was emotional about it before.
Yeah.
It's a messed up
It
situation
pissed me off.
You try to do the right thing to help someone, and then people still attack you for it because of the prior instances. Oh, you took that L the first time. You're trying again.
Yeah.
Like, what dog do you have in the fight? All this stuff is like, well, Corey reached out to us because he didn't have a voice and didn't have a platform to get the attention, so we got the attention for him. We're trying to do what's right here, and you're still piling on us like we're a bunch of clout chasing jackasses.
At the end of the day, to me, I'll put my hand right up and say, to me, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me that particular truck, it was so important that it was numbers matching.
I get that.
But you know what? If it was agreed that that's what it was going to be, then that's what the fuck it should have been.
That's
and
a
it is
point.
in writing. It is in writing.
Right.
I have all 3 copies of the invoice and a web address with the physical picture of the engine as it was sent in and tested on their equipment.
Do you have a picture of the tile?
I didn't see any in the background.
So I'm out of the loop on the tile thing because I didn't catch that.
You didn't see
video.
the response email?
I didn't bother. I was trying to not go all the way in on that because it was just like, it was
another
too much.
rabbit hole.
It was too much. Yeah. Let's be real. I'm trying to get my own interviews lined up, and I'm going
to get a nasty text right after this podcast airs.
At the end of the day,
from an unknown burner number.
It's not important. It's not important that I understand Corey's wishes. At the end of the day, what we as professionals are supposed to be doing is if we say we're going to fucking do something, that's what we do.
Right.
And there's somebody that has a huge platform and a huge following not doing it. And he got caught It's no other excuse. You got caught, mister.
Right.
Yep.
And it's not a situation that we were trying to dogpile you. But if you're going to put yourself out there, you better be right in your information, and you better have all your ducks in a row. And it isn't haterade that we're all drinking. It's a situation of we're trying to keep things, we're trying to improve this industry. We're
Correct.
trying to improve what people think about what you do, what I do. I don't even really care if they think about what I do, right? But it's a situation of we have to act like professionals. And that brings me to the point about, we were talking before we got on here. They're all like, what is your problem with DIYers? When I look at what most of the comments that feed our channels, it's a lot of DIYers, okay? Now, do I think they should not be on there? No, it's not my platform. But at the end of the day, if we all, the something to think about, if we all didn't enable them, just, you're not vetted with me. I don't know who you are. I don't care. You're not in my team. You're not my people. Whatever the analogy you want to use. If I'm not giving you the bone, how long are you going to follow me for? You're probably going to follow me then just to be angry and troll me. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Well, on TikTok, yes, but I think I have more actual technicians because of the tool content.
Mm-hmm.
Now, YouTube's completely separate than TikTok. Short and long format content, completely different subject areas and everything else, and completely different following and everything else. I mean, the YouTube stuff is all, well, it's not all, but the majority of it is DIY, how to repair diagnostic Subarus. There's some tool stuff, and there's some general news about the brand and issues with the brand. But, you know, I as in brain fart off the rails here, we were talking about the nastiness of DIYers. I don't really get that on YouTube because it's more people super appreciative for helping them out when they couldn't afford for something else, that they were forced to have to learn how to fix it themselves to get by because, you know, things aren't that great right now and they haven't been for a while. But at the end of the day, I'm not trying to take anything away from a technician. I'm not trying to pull the rug out from under anybody else in the industry. I'm just trying to help more people out by helping out the consumer directly and also helping out the technician, saving money on his tools and getting the job done.
And that's what I love about your approach, because I feel it's people understanding better the complexity of what it is that's actually going on inside of an automatic transmission and how you approach it. From the very first time, you'll hear me back if you listen to some of my episodes. I think I said to Chuck, or somebody, there's nobody out there that I had seen putting the kind of content out with the detail about a particular subject the way you were. And if I've never thanked you for doing it, I'm going to do that right now, because it impressed the hell out of me, because I'm not a transmission guy, but I've seen a lot of them. I've worked with a lot of them. You were the first one that I've ever seen in my 30-some years of career, the guys in the dealership, that ever approached it the way you did. You're the first true professional that I ever saw firsthand. And thank you for that.
Thank you, Jeff. That does mean a lot to me, especially with the apprentices that I have taught and trained, because my first one basically did everything before I even got into trying to explain to him in depth of hydraulic circuit diagrams. He has went and printed everything off. He wanted to study it. And every unit that he took apart, this was his idea, that I'm going to study that one section and I'm going to memorize it. Mm-hmm. I'm going to memorize the specifications, how it comes apart, how it goes back together. And then we got into the diagnostic side of it. Everything that we can look at the scan tool information that can tell us from there how to determine whether it's inside, outside, and sometimes an electrical code can be a hydraulic mechanical code. And people don't know that.
Yep.
And I've had one recently that bit me.
I saw lots of Chryslers that it would give you an electrical fault, but it was actually what was going on inside mechanically that caused the electric fault. I think Chryslers were probably very common for that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's, again, my background of, I never took one out, tore it down, tested the valve body. It was like, I did the circuit up to it, condemned that or passed it, and then it would be back to them to decide what they were going to do. You know, at that point, it probably got a unit, right? Because it had been overhauled and a valve body, and it was still, so they probably got a unit and fixed.
Yeah, and there are certain situations that, why did it fail in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
Did you scan it? Did you try to test drive it and see how it was acting first? Now, if it comes in and it can't move altogether and it's making a whole bunch of noise, you're kind of like,
yeah,
okay, we've got to start from a baseline.
Yep.
We've got to go in and find out why it failed, and we have to find all the hydraulic leaks. That is the most important that I'm trying to push towards others, is that, well, you just went in and you found this clutch pack or this band burnt and it failed, but how did it fail? Why did it fail?
Yeah.
You've got to find that root cause other than just replacing the clutch pack, replacing the band, putting it back together, and it still doesn't work.
Right.
And even some things engine related can make the transmission fail. An underlying cause or an electrical fault.
Which one of the Silverados and have that bulletin or whatever that talks about if the mass airflow is skewed, it keeps taking the tranny out.
It'll take the tranny out because it can't progressively, or it may be getting false information and maxing line pressure out, because line rise or the pressure control solenoid that controls the pressure throughout the entire transmission, either during the shift and after the shifting, holding pressure inside. It's off of throttle position sensor and mass airflow and temperature related stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that was for me, like, you were the first tech I've seen that made me wish I knew more about transmissions than I do. That's pretty cool, man. Really is. And like, for you to be able to reach me, because like I had zero interest in them, right? I couldn't even, if you put a test in front of me, what makes them work and how, I'd probably fail the test. Because it's been so long since I went through my trade certification and took the test. I never touched the inside of one since. Taken a few of them out, given them to somebody else, put it back in, it works. Pixie dust inside for all that matters. Like it was all that mattered at the time. But you were the first person I've ever seen that made me think, God, I maybe should have paid a little more attention. And I'm not the only mechanic technician that says that about you. So hats off to you, man. Like, you are, the detail. It's for me, it's about the detail. Nobody else is talking about their, like, that I've worked with and have seen, is looking at the front pump and going, if that's wrong, this is going to happen. I never knew.
The biggest thing that bothers me about my side of the industry is that they've been doing it for 40 or 50 years, but they can't understand a hydraulic circuit at sometimes.